Hello and welcome to Wardens of the Cross. This is the Defender. St. Thomas More was a politician during the reign of King Henry VIII of England and a personal advisor to the king as well. While his most recognized attribute today was the fact that he was martyred by King Henry VIII during the Protestant Reformation, a lesser-known fact is that he was also a wise theologian and counselor. The goal of this episode is to show how following St. Thomas More's example of honesty, virtue, and morality could help make today's world a better place. The example in morality set by Sir Thomas More is a true example. King Henry VIII had multiple wives, but since none of them would bear him a son, he would try to divorce them under the guise of an annulment in effort to obtain a bride who would give him a male heir. The king had to request an annulment from the Pope, with evidence for why he could not be wed to his current wife. But when he asked Sir Thomas More for his opinion, he was disappointed to learn that his counselor did not agree with him on moral grounds. St. Thomas More never agreed with Henry VIII on this, even after being locked in jail for a year and eventually martyred for it. In today's society, divorce and remarriage is almost commonplace, despite the immorality of it all. Not only this, but friends of both the man and the wife stand on their respective sides and either say nothing or encourage the divorce, despite the spiritual ruin this leads to within both families and society. Real friends should never be willing to stand on the side and watch their companions ruin themselves through immorality, whether that be fornication, immodesty, adultery, or any of the other paths which lead to spiritual ruin. A good example for all people can be drawn from St. Thomas More's honesty and integrity in refusing to cooperate with Henry VIII and his adulterous attempts to get an heir for the throne. To do this requires both honesty and a lack of care for what people actually think, which is another inspiration which can be drawn from St. Thomas More. The honesty displayed by St. Thomas More should be displayed by all of humanity through all walks of life. A well-functioning social society depends upon the existence of honesty. This is true for many reasons, with the most obvious being this. Without honesty, one would never know what another person honestly thought or believed. Without honesty, there would never be strong marriages, reliable employees, and there certainly couldn't be trust among people. Thomas More showed that he was an honest and reliable person by telling the king exactly what he thought, despite the fact that he knew that, in doing so, he would lose the king's friendship. He also ultimately lost his life for his honesty, which all mankind should be willing to do. Mankind should be willing to always be as honest as St. Thomas More was, and tell people exactly what they think, regardless of whether it will hurt a person's feelings or destroy a fantasy reality for a person. It is best for people to express their true beliefs. A lack of honesty has ruined many more friendships than telling the truth ever has, and it has certainly ruined the family more than any amount of faithful honesty has. St. Thomas More also displayed faithfulness to his family in his life, which is another valuable example in today's society. In today's world, a job is one of the most important parts of life. It makes the money which is needed to pay the bills and to keep a family housed and fed. St. Thomas More was often away from his family for long hours and odd hours of the night, but he was always sure to take care of his family and never desert them for drink or another woman or any of the other temptations which may have arisen. He was always faithful to his wife and children. This is another of the inspirations which St. Thomas More provides for us. In today's world, it can be easy to be tempted away from one's family for riches or other such temptations, but to do so is to commit sin. It is through the family that God provides companionship for both the man and the woman, and the means to care for one another and glorify God through their love, not so that they may desert one another in hard times or for more seemingly desiring temptations. St. Thomas More is a saint for many reasons. He was a morally just man, faithful to his family, and most importantly, faithful to God and God's teachings. If we follow St. Thomas More and his examples of life of being honest, faithful, and morally upright, then we may play our part in making society a better place for future generations, and perhaps lead those around us closer to God and closer to eternal life in heaven.